I've known this for a long time, but when my wife was younger, she had a few threesomes with her best friend and her husband, then boyfriend. This was years before we even met, and she told me early in our relationship just so there would be no secrets. I've never had a problem with my wife being around her best friend alone, since the threesome didn't involve much girl on girl, but more sharing her boyfriend. And for that reason, I've had trouble throughout our marriage being around both of them. I just have trouble having a normal conversation knowing that this guy has had intimacy with my wife. My wife doesn't think anything of it and is completely comfortable. It's just something she did for a little while, then stopped because she wasn't into it anymore, once the taboo thrill wore off. She can even talk about it with them as casually as she talks about a concert they went to. However, she doesn't do this when I'm around because she knows it makes me uncomfortable. Anyway, we were all together last weekend, and her friend had gotten a little drunk and brought it up. My wife quickly shut her down, but the impression I got was that there had been a lengthier conversation leading up to this that I didn't know about. Later on, my wife told me that her friend and husband had asked if she and I were interested in doing something. They were down for whatever we were comfortable with. But my wife admitted that they really wanted her again, but with me watching. My wife knows there is no way in hell I would be down for that, and neither would she. My wife stopped doing that with them for a reason, and that's before she got married and had kids. My wife has told me to just forget they said anything, but holy shoot, how can I do that now? I swallowed being around them when these incidents were well in the past, but now that they are openly lusting for my wife, I don't know if I feel comfortable with her or me being around them. Am I wrong here? How do I navigate this? I don't want to tell my wife to break off her friendship, but something I feel needs to be done. Edit. Thanks for all the comments. I'm glad I'm not blowing this out of proportion, and my response is normal. For context, I do want to add that they all were together 3 times, and my wife stopped it simply because she stopped being into it. She only participated because her friend was bragging about her boyfriend's skill in the bedroom and insisted that she try it. She did, and she found that no amount of skill could overcome the fact that she wasn't very attracted to him. My wife also really isn't into girls. She participated with her friend, but it was a first and last for her, just not her thing. So I really am not worried about her doing anything with them because she had ample opportunity before we met, and she passed. Also, a lot of people are criticizing my wife for not telling me about the conversation, but I'm actually fine with that. She said no for both of us. I'm not angry at her for that. I'm angry at them for trying to basically cuck me. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. This has to be a hard no contact, cut them out completely thing. They essentially are trying to break your marriage up and humiliate you. The level of disrespect is off the charts. You were very, very, very open-minded and agreeing to marry her with those 2 still in her life. But they won't let the past be the past, so that is where they belong. You can also reach out to the husband and tell him he and his wife are unwelcome in your home, and that you will take it as a grave personal insult, requiring consequences if he ever tries to contact your wife, directly or indirectly, again. No one has any right to complain if you stand up for yourself in that way by pushing the creeps away. Comment 2. Swingers have a term for this, wife poaching, and it's a reason to drop couples you interact with. The fact that swingers consider it shitty means a more vanilla couple should see this as a big red flag. They clearly don't see you as a person in this scenario. It's insanely disrespectful to have brought it up in that way. Like, I've been in scenarios of asking another couple if they might be interested, but it's always a package deal. This is gross. I don't think you're wrong to want to cut ties, or at least not do anything with them for a while, including your wife's hangouts with her best friend. Now, for the update, thanks for sticking around. A lot has happened since the last post. So, the whole situation with my wife's friend and her husband took a turn for the worse. I thought I could just brush it off, but it's like a bad smell that won't go away. My wife's friend, let's call her Jane, decided to apologize. She came over when my wife wasn't home, which was the first red flag. Jane said she was sorry for making things awkward and that it wouldn't happen again. But then she said something that made my blood boil. She told me that my wife had been the one to bring it up first, not them. I didn't want to believe it, but there was this nagging doubt in my mind. I confronted my wife when she got home, and we had a huge fight. She swore she never brought it up and that Jane was lying. I wanted to believe her, but the trust was shaken. It didn't help that Jane's husband, let's call him Mike, had been texting me, trying to smooth things over, saying it was all a big misunderstanding. In the middle of all this, my brother got into some legal trouble. He was accused of something he didn't do, and it was eating up all my time and energy. I was trying to help him clear his name, and it was a mess. My wife was supportive, but with everything else going on, we were both stretched thin. Then, one evening, I came home early from helping my brother, and I found Mike's car parked outside my house. I felt this rage I can't even describe. I stormed in, ready to confront them, but it turned out Mike was there to help my wife with some heavy lifting for a community project she was leading. They were just friends, after all. I felt like a fool, but the damage was done. My wife was upset that I didn't trust her, and I was ashamed of my jealousy. We tried to move past it, but things were tense. My brother's situation got resolved, thankfully, but it was like we couldn't catch a break. Jane and Mike announced they were moving away for a job opportunity. It should have been a relief, but instead it felt like we were losing part of our support system. Despite everything, they had been our friends for years. The night before they left, they threw a goodbye party. I didn't want to go, but my wife said it was the right thing to do. At the party, Jane pulled me aside. She was crying, saying she was sorry for everything and that she had been going through a rough time. She admitted she had made up the story about my wife to try and justify her own feelings. I didn't know what to think anymore. After they left, things between my wife and I started to improve. We were talking more, and I was working on my trust issues. But then, I made a choice that I thought was right at the time. I decided to delete Mike's number from my phone and block him on social media. I thought it would help me move on. What I didn't realize was that Mike was the one coordinating a big project that my wife was a part of. And by cutting him off, I inadvertently sabotaged her work. She was furious when she found out. She said I was letting my jealousy and insecurity affect her professional life. I tried to explain, but she wouldn't listen. It felt like everything was falling apart again. So here we are, trying to pick up the pieces. I thought I was doing the right thing, but I guess I was wrong. It's hard to admit that. I just hope we can get through this. Thanks for reading. Aita for exposing my fiancé's drug use after he ignored me on our holiday. Me and my fiancé have been in an on and off relationship for 3 years. There has been infidelity on his part, but it's something we've overcome, and I made the decision to stay with him. We had never been on a holiday before and finally booked one. A month before the holiday, he asked if his 35-year-old brother and his brother's 39-year-old partner could come along. He said that we would still go on our own dates and do our own thing, then meet back up as a group, so I agreed. We went on the holiday. On the first day, we decided to all go for a walk and get a drink. This is when it started. My fiancé and his brother decided to walk miles ahead and leave me and his brother's partner behind. I addressed it that night, and he said he would stop. The next day, we went on a lunch date, just the two of us, and he walked with me. It was lovely. After lunch, his brother called and wanted to meet us, and it started again. They both walked ahead to the point where they lost us, then didn't answer their phones for 2 hours, and went drinking together, leaving us behind without a care in the world. This continued for the entire holiday. He just walked ahead, leaving me behind, acting like I was invisible. This is where I messed up. I felt so insecure that he was leaving me behind and acting like he was a single man, not caring about me. I could see him glancing at other women, which wouldn't have affected me had we been together. So, I started to bring it up every time, and it caused a huge row. I know I was wrong. I was so frustrated that this was our holiday, and he was acting like I wasn't there. His brother and partner got involved, and they all called me crazy. So I retaliated and told the brother's partner that both of them had been taking drugs the whole time. She had no idea, which again I know wasn't my place. My fiancé said I've caused drama, and he couldn't believe I would do that. I can't even, to be honest. My fiancé took my ring off me, said he's done, and then asked for some space. I feel so angry and disappointed with myself that I acted that way. I know I have work to do on myself, but I'm also heartbroken that he couldn't spend the holiday with me like we had planned. I'm terrified I have lost him for good. What do I do now? I will give him the space he needs and not bother him. But I can't settle within myself, and I'm my worst enemy right now. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You had a normal reaction to his awful behavior, and you have been gaslit into thinking you're the one who's done something wrong. You know, he is the one who's acted disgustingly, and I feel like you need to hear someone tell you, he cheated on you, ditched you to go drinking with his brother without communicating it, took drugs, looked at other women in front of you, then blamed you for your reaction to his nonsense behavior. I wouldn't want that ring back. He doesn't respect you. Doesn't even sound like he likes you. You can do better, and one day you'll realize it. Comment 2. I'm terrified I have lost him for good. What do I do now? Well, I'd be celebrating that this inconsiderate jerk was out of my life, but you do you. Honestly, take a breath. What you've described here is not something to be missed in a man. He cheats on you, he does drugs, he is disrespectful. It isn't your insecurities that got the better of you. It's the fact that you still had some self-respect. His behavior is poor at best, and frankly, frick that noise. There's nothing to be heartbroken over if this jerk is out of your life. Now for the update. Thanks for sticking around for this update. So, things went from bad to worse. After the whole holiday disaster, I thought giving my fiancé space would help. But instead, it gave him the perfect excuse to avoid facing our issues. He stayed at his brother's place, and I was left alone, trying to figure out where everything went so wrong. I tried to keep busy, diving into work and spending time with friends. But the silence from his end was deafening. My friend said I should reach out, but I was stubborn, thinking he should be the one to apologize. Then, out of nowhere, I got a text from him asking to meet up. My heart raced with a mix of hope and anxiety. We met at a park, a neutral place, and the air was thick with tension. He started by saying he missed me, but then dropped the news. He confessed that during our time apart, he'd been seeing someone else. He claimed it was a mistake, a one-time thing. But I was shattered. I couldn't believe it. After everything, he cheats again? I was furious, and all the pent-up emotions spilled out. We argued right there, voices raised and people stared. It was humiliating. I told him it was over, that I couldn't do this anymore. Walking away from him felt like ripping off a bandage. It hurt, but it was necessary. I went home and cried for hours, feeling a mix of relief and deep sadness. The next day, I found out through a mutual friend that his brother's partner had left him. She couldn't handle the lies about the drugs and who knows what else. It seemed like my outburst had consequences I hadn't intended. Now I'm trying to pick up the pieces of my life. I've started seeing a therapist to work through the betrayal and my own issues. It's tough, but I'm slowly learning to focus on myself. I'm not sure what the future holds, but I'm taking it one day at a time. Thanks for reading. Aita for ditching my drunk partner at a wedding. After he accused me of flirting, so I'm feeling pretty embarrassed about what happened and not really sure where to go from here. So my partner and I went to a wedding, which was a 2-hour trip, one way, via public transport. Getting an Uber was going to be $160, which we do not have the funds for. So we decided to split the cost with another couple for the way home. My partner was a bit hesitant to go, as he didn't know anyone and had to work the next day. So the plan was to leave after dinner. For the most part, we had fun and were enjoying ourselves at the wedding. He drank quite a bit and we were both drunkish by the end of the meal. I would say he was more drunk than I was. Once the cake was being brought out, my partner started getting angry and frustrated and was demanding that I give him the house keys. We only brought one set with us, as he was going to leave without me. I was like, what the hell, chill. Can you just wait 30 minutes and then we can leave together with the other couple? He was very insistent and non-stop about the keys, but I kept trying to distract him with conversation. The bride came around and began conversing with my partner and me. He just kept yelling over the conversation, demanding I give him the keys. The bride was like, what the hell, are you drunk? To my partner, but he was just in his own world and ignored her, still demanding the keys. To end this situation and stop the embarrassment, I gave him the keys and he stormed off. I just carried on the conversation with the bride and others around me. 20 minutes later, the couple we were going to book the Uber to go home with asked where my partner was, and I just said he left, and they were like, oh. So I got an Uber back to their place, which was an hour drive. Then I had to make my way home by myself on public transport, another hour away. I'm obviously fine catching public transport, but being a woman very dressed up late at night by myself didn't feel like the safest thing. When I got home, my partner said he left and was angry because I kept staring at the other couple's partner, who was 25 years old. I was shocked. I didn't find this person attractive in the slightest. I'm not one to be flirty, and I didn't pay extra attention to this person. He was just sitting opposite me at the table. Maybe I was staring at him, but I find it very hard to believe. We slept in separate beds last night, and he is going to stay at his office for a couple of days. Note: in the past, he has been rude towards me when he has had a couple of drinks, and he is aware of this and has tried to reduce the amount he drinks in the past. I guess I just feel embarrassed by the whole thing and the way he acted in front of my friends. I also don't know if I was staring at this person. Maybe I need to investigate or ask the other couple if I made them feel uncomfortable. Any general advice would help. Thanks for listening. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, please raise your standards. This is getting ridiculous here. I promise you that you didn't do anything wrong. This guy is psycho, and he could easily end up hurting you even worse the next time he gets drunk. Get therapy because you should not be tolerant of this behavior. And the next time you get into a relationship, leave the first time a man treats you like this. It will only get more difficult to leave the longer you wait. That's why you need to get out now. Edit: I want to add that if you need help with leaving, please contact the hotline. Google it in incognito mode. You've got this. Comment 2. I wasted too much of my 20s caring for or apologizing for drunk boyfriends who embarrassed me, were rude to me, or stranded me somewhere. So I made a rule that if my partner even once gets so drunk that they are belligerent like that, I'm done. If you can't hold your liquor, don't drink. Your partner behaved terribly and is trying to blame his behavior on you staring at someone. Don't fall for it. Now, for the update. Thanks for sticking around. So after that wedding disaster, things just spiraled. My partner, let's call him Mr. Grumpy, stayed at his office like he said he would. But then, out of nowhere, he comes back with this big apology, flowers, the whole 9 yards. I was still mad, but I thought, okay, maybe we can move past this. But then, the other couple we were supposed to share the Uber with, they hit me with the news. Turns out Mr. Grumpy had messaged them, accusing them of flirting with me at the wedding. They were super confused and sent me screenshots of the messages. I couldn't believe it. He was stirring up drama while supposedly working things out at his office. I confronted him and it was like a switch flipped. He went from apologetic to furious in seconds, saying I was making him out to be the bad guy when he was just protecting our relationship. I was so done. I told him he needed to trust me or this wasn't going to work. We didn't talk for a few days, which was actually kind of peaceful. But then his sister calls me. She's crying, saying Mr. Grumpy's been in an accident. He's okay, but he's in the hospital with a broken leg. I felt like I had to go see him, you know? At the hospital, things got even crazier. His ex was there. Yep, the ex he always said was just a friend. She was all teary-eyed, holding his hand. I just stood there like an idiot. Mr. Grumpy tried to explain, but I wasn't having any of it. I walked out. I thought that was it, but nope. A few days later, I get a call from a number I don't recognize. It's the ex. She's apologizing, saying she didn't know we were still together, and that Mr. Grumpy told her we were on a break. She felt terrible and wanted to clear the air. I thanked her for telling me and hung up. That was the last straw. I packed up Mr. Grumpy's stuff and left it outside. When he finally got home, I told him it was over for good. He tried to argue, but I was firm. I couldn't be with someone who lied and didn't trust me. So that's where I'm at. Single, a bit shaken up, but feeling like a weight's been lifted off my shoulders. I'm just going to focus on myself for a while. Thanks for reading. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.